Bye-bye, 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 Bill Belichick. Bill got the boot. He got the pink slip yesterday. And a day later, Jerod Mayo now is the new head coach of the Patriots. There's a lot to talk about. I'll save it to the end. Obviously, Dolphins in 2024 is going to have a big wild card, big unknown for them to face. So I personally want Bill to stay just, until the end of this window because we had his number. So I don't know if it could be good news. It could be not so good news. I don't know. But I want to focus on the more important thing for the Dolphins is playoff time. We've had 3 playoffs in like the last 20 years, 1 win in 23 years. It is sad to say in the time I grew up, it was just expected, big time stuff. So I want to get into Dolphins versus KC. It's been a rough week. I grew up in an old world German culture. You don't know what that means is you don't get too positive on things. You kind of deal in the practical. And if anything, you just stay a tad bit negative because you want to find the things you need to fix because you want to get better because it's all about getting better over engineering and perfection. There's no crying and really involved. It's not an emotionalistic type thing. And that's the general framework for the way I view things. And it works well when you're trying to evaluate. It works well if you're trying to build something better. But as a fan, I might not have always been that way. I just was a regular fan. But now that I cover them and I try to analyze them, I kind of get into that thing. But I was sitting there last night saying, wow, I don't know how many more years I got left. And this is playoff time. My team is there. The chances of us winning, it's not high. I would be lying to you. I'd be blowing smoke up your tailpipe. But the chances are there. Were the chances there for the Titans to beat us after they dropped like 14 points in 2 minutes and there was 4 minutes left in the game? No. But that means there's a chance for our Miami Dolphins to somehow get this win with everything against them. And yeah, like I said, it's not going to be a good bet. But it can happen. And, if we had such expectations, then we met the expectations in many ways, and we were ahead in the division. We were almost there for the AFC conference. And now we're not. But if we can get this KC win, because, look, injuries, I don't use them as excuses. But now in going into this Kansas City game, it's just brutal. You got to say there is a little bit of rabbit ears on this as far as our production. You can't do it for the whole season because you design your team to absorb injuries. The edge position, I can't fault Greer at all. You can't lose Chubb, Hill, Phillips, VG, and then Good and say, hey, man, the guy should have built better. No, that's beyond his control. The other areas, yeah. And last week, we were down all those edges, but the defense played well. It was the offense that didn't come through, and they had the least amount of injuries. So I don't use injuries as an excuse last week, but this week it kind of has to be a little bit. And so I think the Dolphins and the fans can be a little loose in a sense, and maybe somehow we can sneak it out. So I want to get into these matchups between KC and the Dolphins. KC is not a world beater. And, for the people out there who are saying, Tua sucks. Why is Mahomes struggling for 2 years now? I mean, he won a Super Bowl last year, but he wasn't lighting the world on fire. He got injured, and Pacheco in a run game and a defense drove him to the championship. Year before the Super Bowl he went to before, he went in and he was the greatest thing ever, quote unquote. Both his tackles went down, and he got obliterated by Brady and the Bucks. The offensive line set the table for Mahomes for many years now, and both their tackles are not doing good. They let Brown go to the Bengals, and the 2 guys they brought in, they overpaid a ton, and they're not too good. So we have to keep that in context for Tua going into this game. This game's going to be freezing cold, -8. Anybody who's ever played on that stuff, I don't know what they got in the pro. I've never played on pro field. They may have got heaters under there or something, but that ground gets to turn to almost concrete. You can hear your cleats not sinking into the grass and and you hit that ground and it's hard. You got the cold. The football's going to hit your hands. It's going to be very hard to catch that football. It's going to be like a rock. The football turns to a rock in the cold. So it's going to be hard for this pass game to throw the football. And they've got a good front and a good secondary. And it's going to not just be Tua and McDaniel, or McDaniel is going to play a huge part. We got to evaluate, even though there's these mitigating factors on the offensive line, but the offensive line is going to have to run inside, not just outside, as I've gone over for months. In the preseason, I said interior run game, being able to run the football because you're going to play in bad weather games like this one is going to be critical. Can we get that interior run? I still think with Jones there and Hunt, maybe we can get some of that inside zone stuff. But we got lots of injuries, and I'm going to get into that. So we have an opportunity. Their tackles stink really bad, and that's going to kind of offset some of our edge injuries. We got Bruce Irvin in and Justin Houston, and we got Ingram. Ingram looked like he had eaten 20,000 donuts, or maybe he had rib protector on, or the jersey was loose. These guys are way out of their prime. And it would be very bad if they had two good tackles. But because their tackles are so bad, these guys are kind of pass rushers, even though they're not anymore. They still got some of it on occasion. It's just not like it used to be. They might be able to get some pressure. They're not going to get blown off the ball most likely by these guys, although they're pretty big, their tackles. They're just not great. But it's going to be the interior of the game that's going to come into effect on both sides of the football. Now, they got Thuney, they got Humphreys, and Smith. Probably the three best in the league. We could have had Creed Humphrey, but we went for Eichenberg with a second and a third. But let's not get into that. But they're going to be going against Wilkins and Sealer and Davis. And I think there is a sort of a stalemate there. The edges, the ability of the linebackers to not get sucked up, to not get pushed out of the way, to open things up. Pacheco is an unbelievable back. But I do think there will be an offsetting. Injuries are going to play a huge, huge part. Howard's out, but Mahomes can't throw on schedule. Some of it's him. Tua throws on schedule a lot, and sometimes there's problems with that because once he gets off schedule, there is a problem. He doesn't have the legs of Mahomes. But you watch Mahomes, he is slow to process at times. Some of it's the receivers not getting open. Some of it's there's just not enough blocking. But I don't like Eli Apple over there. We're going to have Ramsey, who's got a little bit of a knee thing. I've been wondering if that's curtailing him. But the main issues is Elliott going to play? Is Holland going to play? And should he? Holland is a key for us going forward. He's one of the best picks we had. Both knees had MCL sprains. MCL sprains are slight tears. And it hasn't gotten worse and it hasn't gotten better. On this freezing cold against a team that's going to run the football, should he start? Should he play? He only played 11 snaps last week. We got to think about the future. But if he's in and Elliott's in, it could open opportunities for us if they could stay healthy, if they can stay on the field and play right. Injuries, Waddle, we're going to have to run this football. They've got a great secondary. They've got, Snead and McDuffie, and Bolton's back. We didn't see him the last time. He's good in pass and run. They got Chanel, the linebacker, who can do both. We could have had him. We chose Tyndale. But if Waddle and Hill, if you guys noticed last week against the Bills, they played cover one high safety, and then brought everybody to the middle of the field. And that was because Hill was there. So you could have the high safety, one guy over Hill, and then you can focus on him. But if Hill and Waddle are in, the cover one does not work unless you want to get burnt. That means cover two high safeties. That opens more stuff in the middle, and it opens more stuff on the edge. So Waddle will be a big, big, big key for us. I do think there is a chance We're on a short week. They're rested. They rested a lot of their players. They're home. They're the Super Bowl champions. But again, a lot of their failings are similar to our failings. You know, we have more impact receivers and runners. Pacheco's great, but he's not a, break it. Achane can break it any time. They're more physical, kind of similar style in defensive effect. But the O-line has curtailed them. It has curtailed us. And maybe this is a situation where we can come out and win. I hope so. 2024, I'll get into it later, is not going to be easy. It's, Rodgers going to be back. You can see the Jets are a tough team. Just imagine if they had any offense. They might, I don't know how they're going to do on an offensive line. Again, another team, the offensive line. Offensive line makes the NFL world go round. You can go look at all the teams that are playing and look at their offensive line, and you can determine pretty much how their team is doing. The offensive line isn't going to get you to the Super Bowl, but having a terrible one can keep you from it. There's teams that have won with poor quarterbacks. Brad Johnson, Flacco, he's not terrible, but he won 2 Super Bowls. Poor quarterbacks have won Super Bowls. There's never been a poor offensive line to win a Super Bowl. So there is opportunities. Hunt's going to be in. Tehran's going to be in. People like Jackson. He's our starter. So we have 3 starters. We got Eichenberg and then Jones probably, or Cotton. I don't know. So let's see how it goes. I'm going to cover the big part of it tonight in my live. I do a live tonight and really get into the matchups. I'm going to probably put some video in there and show you there is an opportunity, guys. If we don't get this, 24 could be a little dicey. Maybe not. Depends on how Greer and the staff does, how we retain people. But guys, it's playoff football. We just have to be happy and believe. Just whoever you are, if you're like me, turn off the thinking cap and just believe and enjoy. If we lose, you're going to lose anyway. Might as well have fun going into it. That's what I'm going to do. I might even drink some special sauce to get that fan flavor on. Who knows when we're going to see this again? Let's believe next year. Let's believe it's, but you don't know. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. So just enjoy, guys. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, let's get into the Bill Belichick part. Belichick is now gone. He created nightmares for Dolphin fans for 20 years. In the first 15, he was even a good GM. He's the guy who had the 2 tight ends, found Gronk, altered his system from a run defense type system to a pass type system, almost had the perfect season. That guy's brilliant. He's an unbelievable DC. GM part kind of fell away. He made mistakes. He got, sloppy. But even Shula, the same thing happened to Shula. It's not easy to do both jobs. I think it's not wise. But he was somebody that had been kind of set in a style that wasn't a winning style, and it gave us pretty much 2 wins a year. Jerod Mayo is going to come in there on fire. You can see what happened with the Texans, how they got a good GM in there, got some pieces, some good picks, not the same kind of picks. They had insane 2 top 5 picks, I think. But they're going to have a great picks. They have $65 million in cap space. And so this could create a more competitive Patriots team. And the Dolphins don't need that. The Bills, they're not going to have shaky bones Dorsey. They're going to come out, run the football, whether they go to Super Bowl or not. They're going to be more consistent, more physical. They're not going to be as easy out as they were this year. Not for us beating them, but just making the stupid mistakes early in the season. So that's going to make them harder. Rodgers is going to come back, and he's going to invest in that offensive line. It's got to be a little bit better, and certainly with Rodgers there, it's going to get better. They're going to be more competitive. So you could finally see a really competitive East if the Patriots step up, and you got to figure they're going to. At least, how can they not? That offense was terrible. So this is our moment. This was our season. We had everything in control. We had high point talent season. That's why this KC game's big. If somehow we're not going to go to Buffalo after this and beat them, and even if we do, we're not going to go to the Ravens and beat them, not as beat up as we are. But at least if we could beat this KC team, as unlikely as it might be, it will give hope. And that's what us Dolphin fans need. Anyway, check me out tonight on the live, 10 p.m. We'll get into it deep. There are opportunities. There really are. Just a little bit of a long shot. Anyway, it's playoff time. Curtis saying, catch you next time. Be well. Go Fins. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with acebread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.